anguish of the war's aftermath. In Hamlet on the Border of Silence, an essay written in 1951, Herbert writes of the prince's education. To the bitter truth of man's transience was added the truth about smiling villains, triumphant criminals. The essay makes a passionate argument against the view of Hamlet as a man who could not make up his mind, the phrase used by Laurence Olivier in the opening to his 1948 film adaptation of the tragedy. This view of the character is embedded in the Polish verb hamletyzować, to hamletize, or to hesitate to act or take a decision as a result of thinking too much. Herbert argues that in order to plumb the true depths of Shakespeare's play, we need to imagine Hamlet's past, and that to fail to do so is to trivialize his torment. If only commentators, instead of fantasizing about what is written, would reconstruct what is missing and must be completed by the effort of a faithful imagination. This is the principle applied to Homer in Herbert's play Reconstruction of the Poet. Herbert draws particular attention to Hamlet's humanism as it comes up against the brutality of the court at Elsinore. A young man of Renaissance virtues suddenly bereft not only of a father, but also a faith in the rational basis of the world imparted to him in the course of his recent studies abroad in Württemberg. Herbert's own predicament as a young man whose classical gymnasium education in pre-war Lvov, now Lviv, in no way prepared him for the catastrophe of 1939 to 1945, clearly informs this reading. 20 years old at the war's end, Herbert had found himself with a heart full of horror and grief, bitterly watching his country after liberation from the Nazis be taken over by another set of ideological thugs. He saw the survivors of Polish wartime resistance slandered, imprisoned, and many of them murdered. Mourning for the vast numbers of the dead was a public drama to be carefully managed from on high and performed in accordance with the official view on the real heroes of the war. Though it is clear that he later exaggerated his own direct involvement in resistance, Herbert's solidarity with the Polish underground struggle was sincere, and his fierce will to remember and honour those who perished remained an important driving force throughout his life. His early poems ask how to live in a devastated, betrayed world in which neither reason nor virtue, loyalty nor courage guarantee a dignified life or death. In his Hamlet essay, Herbert writes of Descartes that he built himself a cosy little temporary morality to weather the storms of reason ignited by doubt. In contrast, Hamlet's doubt is existential, religious, metaphysical, moral, not merely methodological. Hamlet thinks with his whole life and with his whole person. The fingers touching Yorick's skull are the beginning of reflection. In Hamlet's conversation with his mother, thought bleeds and weeps. What is sometimes interpreted as indecision, in the intellectual sphere as well, is in fact Hamlet's orientation toward the concrete, the thought form that is an immediate reaction to reality, a response to a situation. And that is why the prince's soliloquies, in which the dramatization of thought reaches its peak, are as thrilling as the action, if indeed not more engaging. They are woven so subtly of thought's material that you can listen to them with your eyes closed, even regretting that they are being spoken aloud. Herbert's notion of thinking thought is borrowed from the French existentialist philosopher Gabriel Marcel's La pensée pensante. In an important correspondence of the period with the dramatist Jerzy Zawierski, Herbert called it dramatic thinking, an idea he associates with the figures of Pascal and Kierkegaard, but above all with Socrates. It is not surprising that his playwriting often took the form of the play for voices, a form of drama well suited to conveying thought's material. In July 1952, Zbigniew Herbert wrote to the philosopher Henryk Elzenberg, who had been until recently his professor at the University of Torun and remained his mentor. Herbert had sent Elzenberg his essay on Hamlet, and his letter now reports, "I'm racked by literary obsessions. At one point I started writing a novel. I've been carrying 2 stories around for a year, and but I won't tell you. It's a terrible embarrassment to attempt anything in the theatre. The characters come to me in the night, with faces like hanged men, with upturned eyes."